Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and this is your 10-second tip. Are you struggling with your shot? One trick could be to follow the ball with your eyes on the release, because perhaps your mechanics are falling apart as you're releasing and staring at the rim the whole time. When you think about the NBA game and how teams run their offense, one of the first things that must come to mind is the pick and roll. After the give and go, it's the oldest play in the book, and teams have been trying to figure out the best way to defend it since the game started. While the pick and roll has been a staple of NBA offenses for as long as anyone can remember, the way they've been defended hadn't changed much at all until very recently. I'm sure we're all familiar with the high hedge style, where the ball screener's man steps out and forces the ball handler to move laterally until the ball handler's man can navigate back into position. This was the prevailing way to defend the ball screen for decades. When step-up screens became more popular, coaches like Tom Thibodeau began utilizing ice defense, forcing the ball handler away from the inside ball screen and dropping the big man down to contain. But offenses continued to evolve and make different adjustments less and less effective. So that brings us to today's game, where teams have been forced to get more and more creative both from an on-the-court perspective and with their rosters. The first line of defense is simply switching everything. Because ball handlers are getting so good at shooting the ball off the dribble, teams can no longer afford an instance of space as the screen occurs. And they've created rosters that allow them to have interchangeable players at each position. Of course, you're still susceptible to mismatches, and that's where the special sauce comes in from the last few years. The first adjustment is what I call pre-switching, otherwise known as the Melo rule. You see, if there's a particular weak spot in a team's defense, the offense will mercilessly attack him in a pick and roll by bringing his man up to ball screen. The Rockets do this to Melo whenever they play, and you gotta feel sorry for the guy. So, the adjustment was to switch Melo off of the ball screener before he got to the ball. This is a great solution, as you can continually bump the weak defender away from the play and to a place on the floor where he'll hurt you the least. That said, it's not always easy to do this, and if the offense spaces properly, there's no one close enough to pre-switch, but it's a very viable strategy. The next adjustment is what happens when a big forces a guard onto him and tries to take him to the post. You could call this the LeBron rule, since we saw the Celtics and Warriors execute this to protect their guards down low from his hulking presence. Some teams call it scram, while Steve Kerr has a different name for it.
Well, one of the ways you can alleviate that mismatch is by, we call it a bump off. So let's say Steph gets switched off onto a postman, and you're going to look for the other team to dump the ball into the post to his guy, and Draymond Green's on the weak side. Draymond will literally just run across the lane and pull Steph's jersey or point, and now the weak side help defender needs to sag down almost in a zone so that you cover that cross-court pass. But it's just like, it's like a switch away from the ball, which would have been illegal, 15, 20 years ago, but in the modern game, you're allowed to do that. And so Draymond's the best I've ever seen at it. And so if we do get caught in a mismatch on the post, you'll frequently see these bump offs. And I know how you work. You're going to put some of these on tape.
It requires the weak side big man to bump the guard out of there before the offense has a chance to get the ball to the mismatch. This would have been impossible 20 years ago, when defensive rules did not allow two defenders to be near one offensive player without the ball. But in today's game, with a smart rotation defense led by someone like Draymond Green, the defense can eliminate the mismatch before it becomes a problem. While all this might seem very complicated, if you know how to teach it properly, you can get players of all levels to learn it. And eventually, it becomes as easy as getting tickets to sporting events, concerts, or the theater from SeatGeek. With their easy-to-use mobile app, SeatGeek scours the internet for the very best prices on all the popular events you want to see. They give you a grade to let you know if you're getting a good value. You can see the vantage point from the seat. And best of all, you get $20 off your first purchase when you use my code BBall at checkout. The NBA season is already underway, so download the SeatGeek app now, get great seats to a game, and see in person how well your favorite team scrambles, switches, and stops the other team. While switching is an easy concept to implement, pre-switching and scrambling require lots of practice, communication, and basketball IQ. It's no surprise the Warriors and the Celtics are the best at it due to their coaching staffs and personnel, but there are other teams close behind, making it that much harder for the pick and roll to be effective. It'll be interesting to see what the next adjustment by the offense will be, but for now, just enjoy the ballet. As Bobby Knight once put it so eloquently, defense is just offense without the ball. Sports fans, to see more of our great NBA content and analysis, make sure to hit the subscribe button, but also click the bell and adjust your settings so you can get an alert the second our videos drop, because trust me, you're going to want them hot and fresh. You in?